Hello everyone, today we're going to be playing some Twiddle Storm, or perhaps more accurately, we've already played the matches because I was playing a bit off stream and just trying to lock up those last couple of QPs for the season, and I picked up a pretty nice 5-0 with this list. So Twiddle Storm definitely has been, I feel like, one of my better decks in the past, I don't know, little stretch here, and I did a little bit of experimenting with the green versions that I saw getting some play. I know the theory is that map is the worst card, and I do agree with that. But, I mean, I tried Rumble. I have not yet tried Planar Genesis. But I really did not like the version with Rumble. I thought it just had too many consistency issues, and you just can't reliably find Lotus Field. So maybe Genesis plays a little bit better, but I kind of don't suspect that it will, or at least not by an appreciable amount, because basically you have the same problem where it's okay, it's digging 4 cards deep, but then you don't find a Lotus Field, and so what then? It also makes it harder to like board down on considers, which is like something I pretty commonly do while sideboarding. And I don't know, I mean, maybe I'll give it another look in the future, but for the moment I definitely like Jeskai with maps a lot more. I could be persuaded to go back to Sylvan Scrying, but I think the color requirements start to get a little bit weird with Deserted Temple, so that's probably not realistically on the table. Other changes that I've made since the last time I played this, I saw Temporary Lockdown was getting played in the board a little bit. I do like that. It's good, and it's a good answer to energy. The rest of this is looking pretty similar. So let's take a look at the first round. Okay, so first game of the first round, we keep a hand that looks pretty nice here. We have Wish, Breach, Strings, so we have an untapper and a way to win. We have 2 lands and a map, so that's going to get us Lotus Field, and we have Preordain along the way to potentially help out with a cantrip. The slightly awkward thing about cantrips alongside map is that map demands all of your mana on turns 1 and turn 2, so you kind of can't really play this cantrip until your combo turn. That being said, it's not useless on a combo turn. It can definitely dig for a Twiddle or something like that, and maybe if we get a little bit derailed and can't quite combo on 3, then we could use it then. So I'm pretty happy with this hand. Opponent leads on an Elegant Parlor. Seeing no Gigantha Companion, this suggests probably not energy, probably not storm either, although could be storm, but then they bin a Teferi and we figure that it is probably control. Okay, so we will, whoops, why is this going so slow? All right, we draw a Twiddle, which is a pretty nice pickup, makes it more likely that we can just reliably combo on 3 here. Play the Expedition map. I'm holding back the Minamo here because there is a possibility where if I draw another land, especially knowing that the game can go a little bit longer against control, if I draw another land, then I can use this Expedition map with the other land, go get a field, and then have Minamo as a land after Lotus Field, which could become relevant with like Ring untapping if, you know, resources trade and then we end up landing a Ring or whatever. But we actually naturally pick up the Lotus Field, so that's good and also not great. The best thing about it is that we don't have to use this map to go get a Lotus Field, so we can maybe go get like a utility land or something like that, but we do have to still spend our Minamo in order to play this field because we can't get the other land and then play it in the same turn, and I don't want to wait another turn playing another land. At least I think that's what I did. Opponent plays a Tune the Narrative. So again, yeah, they are on like the Jeskai Energy Control, and they are just holding up some mana. So potentially here, we could use Hidden Strings in order to tap them off of their blue mana. We pick up an Otawara that's pretty flexible if they land like a hate permanent of some kind, like a Narset or maybe another Teferi or something like that. We might want to bounce it, so it's relatively free to use the map there, and we do want the map in our yard for Breach. Now, I don't quite remember if we go for it here. I think we do, but let's see. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just play the Preordain. So we untap the 2. I do Twiddle. Okay, so we do go for it here. So this is kind of interesting. So we twiddle first. If they counter that, then I mean, whatever. We could preordain or potentially just win. Now I can strings tap both their lands, and okay, maybe they can counter my strings, but if they float mana, then we pass to second main and we have Dream's Grip, Breach, and all that good stuff. So we go for the strings, they float the mana, we pass, and so we're being mana efficient where we're not losing any mana passing to our second main ourselves. Definitely something that's important when you're playing against like these control decks where you can like tap down their lands. You need to be mindful of making sure that you're not wasting mana while tapping their lands and then passing to second main. Just think a little bit about like, you know, what's a mana efficient way to like leave yourself in a position to still win, so don't like burn all your rituals right away or something like that. And now we just have this on lock. We've got Breach, we've got Twiddle, Wish, Tome Scour. Opponent is tapped off of blue and they scoop it up because the game is over from there. All right, so I mean, a pretty nice first game. The slightly annoying thing about going from moot place here is I can't really show you the sideboarding. I think I probably just boarded in the silences, maybe down on a couple of cantrips, or maybe an untapper. I don't quite remember exactly. Opponent leads on Arena of Glory. We have a hand here that can play a quick ring. We can use a surveil land with one of these fetch lands. We have a preordained to help us, you know, hopefully look for some business. This hand is pretty decent. It is effectively a multi 6 already because the second Lotus Field is kind of useless, but I would happily keep 2 lands field, grip, preordained, ring as a 6. Like that's a much above average 6. We pick up a defense grid, which I'm also reasonably happy about. So yeah, those are on our board, and definitely something we're boarding in here as well. I'm gonna pass on the first turn and just get a surveil land. So this is the type of play that you see in like Legacy more, where you kind of hold back the cantrip because you need to know what you need with the cantrip. So I mean, I get to get a little bit of value out of this surveil, deploy the defense grid on 2, and I will have drawn a couple more cards, and suddenly I know, okay, am I looking for an untapper? Okay, am I looking for a silence? So in situations where you can, in perhaps slightly slower matchups, holding back a cantrip, not a bad idea. Opponent has High Noon, which is definitely a little bit annoying. This is not super common from what I know at the moment in Modern, but we do have a Sink into Stupor, so that's potentially a way to get rid of it. And we're going to just jam this defense grid, and they don't have Force of Vigor, so that's good. The slightly awkward thing about this defense grid is it does remove our ability to like end step sink their High Noon, so I don't love that, but defending the ring that we're probably going to be able to jam is, I think, valuable enough that I'd rather have a ring in play than like preserve my ability to Sink into Stupor the High Noon. So here we preordain first and we bottom both of those, picking up a silence, which is a decent pickup. I'm not in any rush to play. I mean, I could have like Dream's Grip played the ring there. Again, I don't necessarily see the need for it. I mean, maybe they draw a land, but then like, how are they realistically counterspelling still? If they had Force of Negation, they would have used it on the defense grid, I think. So I don't really see any threat of my ring not resolving this turn. We did have to play this Opera Fixed Springs to do it, but I mean, we have double ring, so I think we'll eventually find something that gets through this High Noon. Opponent has Teferi, and they uptick and don't bounce our ring, which I think is maybe a little bit strange because we do just get to draw even more cards, and the protection doesn't really matter against them, so it is a reduction in total cards that we get by bouncing it, but I don't know, they choose not to. We'll draw some more cards. Manamo is decent, we get an extra draw, and we'll draw a little bit more. I probably should not have done that then. Pick up a Vizier, cycle, untap, and you know, we're looking for an Odawara, another Sink. You know, we've got options. I do keep the second Lotus here because potentially I'm going to play it now that I have the lands. What do I dump the Wishes. they're not really a card I'm going to need, and another one of the rings, because if I have Breach, then I can just access my graveyard, so I feel pretty okay about that. Opponent does bounce Defense Grid here, which is a little bit annoying, but we can just replay it, and if it eats a counter spell, so be it. We pick up Otawara, which is excellent. That's an answer to High Noon. I'm going to play Grid here. They can sign it, which is fine, and we're going to go for an end step Otawara, the High Noon, and then like Silence, Untappers, and Breach. They have another Teferi, and they bounce our ring, which is also totally fine. So we go for the Otawara, and our opponent scoops it up. I mean, they know that we have 1,000,000 mana. They know that we have a super stocked hand from the ring. They know we were discarding wishes and rings and stuff. So, I mean, they're not going to make us play it out from there. All right. Pretty quick and clean round number 1 win over Control. Okay, so after a series of tied die rolls, we are here in round number 2 against a Gigantha deck, where we do again have map plus some lands, so that's pretty good. We have Untapper and Wish, which is the start of having enough business to potentially win the game. It's not going to do it on its own because we just won't have enough raw mana to like Wish, Breach, and then loop back for Wish, but it could get there. Going to lead on Island Expedition map. And our opponent goes Plains Guide of Souls, so looking like an energy deck with second Hidden Strings, which is not bad, but again, still a little bit awkward. Being on the play here is a big deal against energy. There's a chance they don't kill us on 3, whereas I think it's very likely we'd be dead on 4. Guide hits us. We go get our Lotus Field. And we draw a Lotus Field, which is a little bit awkward. So here I do play the Misty. The thought process here being I don't actually want to sacrifice this Deserted Temple, because the Deserted Temple is going to make so much mana with these Hidden Strings. So Field, Deserted Temple. Temple is essentially 2 mana, Field is 3. So you net 3 mana on every strings of Field Temple, or if it's Field and another land, you only net 2 mana. Given that I'm going to potentially have a mana intensive line here with Wish, I'm interested in keeping this Deserted Temple in play. And they discharge just to get a little bit more energy. And it's not like if I played the Lotus Field I'd be able to win that turn. I'd just be playing the Lotus Field and passing. And the Surveil Land also gives me another look at a piece of business, which could help me win a little bit more consistently. So our opponent puts a bunch of power on the board. We get a Surveil Land and we see Breach, which is excellent. We keep that. Opponent's got City's Blessing and 1,000,000 tokens. We're dead next turn if it goes to next turn, but it's not going to go to next turn because we've got Lotus Field. And we start with strings. Wish. I didn't use anything from the Wish yet, but we're making some more mana. Play the Breach, Tome Scour, and here we have Tome Scour, Strings, and Field Temple, which is an infinite loop. Again, each cast of the Strings is net gain of 3 mana, 3 Tome Scours, mills 15 cards, but then there are 4 total escapes that have to happen, 3 for the Tome Scours, 1 for the Hidden Strings, so that's 12 cards. So each iteration of the loop nets us 3 more cards in our graveyard. So we mill out our entire library and repeat this over and over. We are essentially fast forwarding through it right now. If you want to see this in slower pace, watch my previous video on Twiddle, which was incidentally also a 5-0. Then finally, we work our way down towards no cards in our library, wish for Ithas's Oracle, and that's going to be the game. All right, so second game now. So second game, we start on a Mull to 6 here. We do have 2 lands map, which is excellent. We also have Ring Twiddle, so we have a potential turn 3 Ring, and Into the Floodmaw for a piece of hate. So I'm relatively happy about this. Opponent leads on turn 1 Ragavan, which I'm a little bit less happy about. Lead on Island map. I already have the 1 island. I'm not super worried about like a Blood Moon potentially, so I don't necessarily need to lead on this turn. We have an Amped Raptor, Ocelot Pride. We pick up a Vizier, which is useful, but not quite that useful yet. We get hit a little bit lower. Johnny. Pick up an island, crack the map, get the field. Go to our turn. We pick up another 1 ring. Untap the Twiddle. Play the ring. Use it. Draw. We can't really realistically go for it that turn. Yes, we could have untapped 1, or we could have 1 more mana with Vizier, but then how are we untapping this ring or anything? So it definitely is just a ring past the turn situation. And they do have a static prison for our ring, which is a little bit annoying. They flip the Ajani, go to our turn. We cycle the Vizier, picking up a Deserted Temple, which is good with Hidden Strings. And now we have a Wish Hidden Strings Breach line. So we, in theory, could have just like played another ring past the turn. We could have also like flood mauled our static prison, but basically you should go for the breach line if you have the option, because the breach line is just deterministic, whereas the ring line is not deterministic. It's often, it can pretty quickly converge to deterministic, the ring line, but given the choice, when it's against energy tapped out with 1 card in hand, I'm willing to bet that that's not surgical. I mean, energy doesn't really play surgical, and so I'm happier going with the breach line here. We're doing the same loop as last time, it's worth noting, where we have the Deserted Temple in play, so the strings is +3 mana, so it does make the Tome Scour loop a little bit more efficient. It does still work with the 1 cost untappers, Dream's Grip or Twiddle proper. We did have interaction covered with this Flood Maw too. Work our way down and cast a Thassa's Oracle. Well, Wish first and then Thassa's Oracle. So a nice, quick, clean 2-0 over energy, and on to the 3rd round. So this is the 3rd round. This is actually our 2nd hand. Our first hand, I clicked through it a little bit too quick. It was an Unkeepable 7 where we had no lands. Our 6 also has no lands, so we have to go to 5. And we have a 5 here that I think is pretty reasonable as far as 5s go. We have 2 lands, field. We also have Consigned Memory, and then we have a couple cantrips and Vizier. So I think what I end up doing, I end up putting away land and 1 of the cantrips. Could have put away Vizier. Excuse me. Could have put away Vizier here. I mean, against a Thoughtseize deck, this is very bad, but it's kind of very bad no matter how I slice it, unless I keep the 2nd sink. And I don't think I can afford to keep that much mana, because I do need to find some business. We are on the draw. But if we're not against a Thoughtseize deck, then we just get to play sink and then turn 2 Lotus Field, which I think is pretty strong and probably wins us the game. Wait, no, we are on the play. Never mind. So we have the Soporific Springs. Again, it is still a little bit of a problem against a Thoughtseize deck, but there's not that many Thoughtseize decks going around. Ugin's Labyrinth, not a Thoughtseize deck. And so we can go for the Field Consign play. I know Consign is good against them as counter magic, but I think having the mana advantage here will be helpful, especially given that I'll need to find some business off of this Preordain. And I don't really have any proper Twiddles either, so. Opponent has 3 mana for a Kozilek's Command, make a spawn, fine. Pick up a Manamo. So I'm going to start by cycling the Vizier just to see what we hit with it. Lotus Field, not good. Preordain is interesting in that we see Consider and Wish. The problem with Wish is we don't really have any untappers, so Wish into Breach is not even that good. I do keep the Consider because it's a redraw, and we have all the mana in the world. So I dump the Lotus Field that we see on top. We don't need a 3rd Lotus Field. We have the ability to Preordain here, and we see Map and Ring. So here I do actually keep the map, not because I want the map, but because I want to protect the ring on top. I'm reading them as potentially having a Thought-Knot Seer as a turn 3 play, because they had 3 mana on turn 2 and then they made a point of making another mana here. So I mean, maybe it's the thing that gets the land, but I mean, it could certainly be like a Thought-Knot Seer and they're just looking to guarantee their turn 3 Thought-Knot Seer. So I don't want to have that ring in my hand. And I'm going to play the map because why not? And then we can play out the Tarn, which I'm not going to fetch with because I have the what's called, I have the ring on top. Opponent plays a ring of their own, which is fine. Go to our turn, pick up the ring, fetching first. I actually think I should have gotten the archive. Well, no, there's a possibility I hit an untapper there, so it's pretty reasonable to not get the archive. This also lets me Minamo, which is pretty good. All right, so they don't have any way to really like interact with my ring, so I'm just gonna wait and do all of this stuff on their end step. I could potentially fetch something with map if I had to as well, like for example an Otawara to bounce like a Trinisphere or something that they might have. They hit a Myco Spawn off of their Ancient Stirrings after drawing more cards, and it seems like they're passing. Wait, are they passing? Yeah, they're passing without having the Myco Spawn up, so I would certainly read this as another Kozilek's Command, because what do they have that can interact at instant speed? Literally only Kozilek's Command. So we do need to be mindful of that, because Kozilek's Command can make us draw, so you can potentially lose if you get a little bit too greedy as you work your way down your library. Now we do pick up Consigned Memory, which is very good. Kozilek's Command can be countered by the Consign. We pick up a Hidden Strings and a Vizier, so we are in excellent shape to win next turn now. We'll draw with the ring, untap, do more untapping, draw a million cards, Deserted Temple, and our opponent scoops it up. So they didn't even try to get us with the Kozilek's Command. All right, a nice, quick and easy win off of the 5 against Eldrazi. So one of the nice things about the Eldrazi matchup with this deck is that a lot of your cards are just kind of incidentally good against them. Consign, for example, is just a card that you play main deck for other reasons, but hey, sometimes you just get to blow them out by countering their Thought-Knot Seer or whatever. Additionally, your Twiddles can tap Trinisphere, so Trinisphere is not really the best hate against us. Our 7 there didn't really have a way to get Lotus Field into play reliably, so we mull to 6 and we hit something I'm a lot happier with. I'm going to send away one of the untappers. Wish Breach is excellent, and you know, with probably a Surveil plus the 2 lands themselves, we have Twiddle, Breach, Twiddle, and then Wish, so we should just be good to go on turn 3 here. We pick up another Twiddle, which is, or I just quickly switched which untapper I sent away, because Dream's Grip is technically a little bit better. In the event of like a Trinisphere or something like that, I could potentially tap and untap for 3, and you know, get through it at no mana loss. Opponent leads on Eldrazi Temple. We pick up a Sink, which is decent, and we have another Dream Script on top, which we'll definitely keep. Again, that can just like beat a Trinisphere now that we have the second untapper. They have a Talisman, so they didn't have a 4-drop, or maybe they had like a Myco Spawn and they didn't have the green for it. So I'm currently reading this as a Myco Spawn. We pick up a Dream Script. That could certainly have like land Myco Spawn, but they don't go for it, which is interesting. This now is suggesting Kozilek's Commands to me, but we can't really do anything. I mean, we could tap, but I'm not going to spend a tap on that. We pick up one ring, which is pretty nice. It's a good backup plan. We have Lotus Field untapping. We Dream Script, we play the ring. So the sequencing here is a little bit interesting where I'm playing the ring first, Potentially it baits some sort of interaction, but I'm also holding up Sink into Stupor. I could have gone for it with the graveyard there, but with them holding up the, I think, a likely Kozilek's Command, this isn't really something that I want to go for, where we can potentially get blown out. Now here, if they go for a big Kozilek's Command on end step, I get to sink it, and since that's the best thing that they could do, I mean, I'll draw a bunch of cards, and then, you know, maybe I find a Consign, or maybe I just like can play the Breach, but then now I'll have an active Ring, which I like a lot better. So they do go for the big Kozilek's Command, and we do sink it. Picking up another Breach, not the best, but we'll see what they do. They have a Ring of their own, and they're holding up a small Kozilek's Command, so we need to try and win with our Breach, basically. And we're in pretty good shape, too, with that Twiddle draw, because if I play Breach and they get rid of 2 Twiddles, I'll still have 1 Twiddle left over. I can float blue and Twiddle first, and relatively without fear. Picking up Minamo is also relatively nice. So we untap our Ring, draw more, and then we just draw double Hidden Strings. So now we just have it even without using the graveyard. Draw a million cards. Breach. They didn't Kozilek's Command with the Breach, so maybe they're trying to get us when we go for the Oracle. We do have Ring Protection. No, we didn't. Ring Protection was last turn. Never mind. So we just need to be a little bit mindful as we shrink down our library. We have 3 cards. We're holding up blue, though, for Consign, so there's really not a lot they're going to be able to do against us here. Again, we're just untapping and tapping to draw a million cards with Ring. Consider down to 1 Oracle, and now I'm playing Oracle with 0 in our deck, where again we're holding up double Consign. I think I probably also wish to hold up an extra Pact or something in there along the way. But again, nice win over Eldrazi. I think Twiddle is, I think a lot of the combo decks, like Storm is also well positioned against Eldrazi, I think, in general. I mean, sometimes you lose, but that's any deck and any matchup. But Twiddle in particular has, I think, a more noticeable edge over Eldrazi, I would say. Also doesn't hurt that like the land that you're reliant on is just hexproof and stuff, so their land destruction stuff doesn't really matter. The Kozilek's Commands can potentially be annoying with your graveyard, but it's not like they're going to kill a creature that you depend on, because you don't depend on creatures. So all that good stuff. All right. Round number 4 here. So here we have a hand that I think is a little bit iffy. We only have a Preordain and no way to reliably find a Lotus Field. Wish is good, Consign is sometimes good, Vizier is a little bit iffy as just like a cantrip, so I'm pretty sure I send this back. Yeah, I do. And I think this hand is a lot better. We just have a natural turn 3 Ring, 2 lands, field, temple it up to 3, Vizier up to 4 mana, and then play that turn 3 Ring. So what I don't need is probably the Expedition map. Yep, send that away. Opponent leads on Gladecover Scout, so we are up against Boggles. Interesting. We lead on this Misty because we can fetch a Surveil land on 1. It's not like we're doing anything else. Opponent has a Rancor and a Griffspoon. Okay, sure. Take a hit. I think we're probably not dead next turn, but it is a little bit scary. Play that Deserted Temple, Daybreak Coronet. They're going to hit us for a bunch. Fortunately, we don't care about life total. We pick up a Preordain. Here we go for the play where we play the Ring. Now they can have that new enchantment that like O-rings something. If that's the case, we can hopefully win the next turn with like a Wish Dreamscript plan. So Ring does just buy us a turn, which is nice. And we can't really win this turn any other way, so again, just playing the Ring as like a fog and draw, totally fine. And it does put some pressure on them to have that enchantment, because if they don't have it, they're just dead. We pick up Breach as the draw, which is also pretty good. They do have that enchantment, Sheltered by Ghosts. Why is this going so fast? No, stop. Okay, so they did pick up Shelters by Ghosts, exile our Ring. We ritualed up, played Wish, started a Breach Tome Scour loop here. We do not have a second land in play, so we just have like a Dreamscript version of this happening. Our opponent didn't have a third land, so there's not really any interaction that they could have. I mean, if they had an Endurance, they would have already used it. I don't think Boggles would be playing main deck Endurance anyway. So we are just looping with Tome Scour and Twiddle. to mill our entire deck. And then it's going to be Wish for Oracle time. Yeah, so Ring being nice there as like a must answer that also just buys us a turn to win with Breach Wish. And there it is. Note that I did leave 2 cards in our library. If our opponent had a Solitude or something like that, I would have just considered in response and gotten rid of them. So it's not like I left myself open to Solitude there in reality. All right, second game. So this hand is pretty similar to the last one. It doesn't really have a way to reliably find a Lotus Field with only 1 cantrip. I'm pretty sure I send this back. Oh no, I do keep this? That's bold. I guess maybe I figured I had double bounce spell. I don't know. I mean, we're on the draw too, I guess. Okay, so maybe being on the draw with double bounce spell and the Preordain, I felt like it gave us enough looks, but I did just mulligan a very similar hand. I don't know. I think there's a strong argument to be made for mulliganing this. We pick up Breach, which is like okay, but not a Lotus Field, which is what we need. Leading on the Surveil on turn 1. Turn 2, I'm figuring I have like Floodmaw plus Preordain or something like that, so I don't feel the pressure to like immediately Preordain. Opponent has a Rest in Peace. A little bit annoying. We Surveil with Archive and we get rid of another fetch land. Deserted Temple, it's not really something we need, so we send both of those to bottom, pick up a Dream's Grip. Looking to be in slightly rough shape here. I can't even really Floodmaw on the end step because it's not like I am going to be able to play or to win next turn necessarily, but then we just top deck the Lotus Field because we're blessed, I suppose. Our deck likes us. We are feeding into this Rest in Peace a little bit, but we're just going to play a Ring for now. They have a Shard Mage's Rescue. That's totally fine. So we'll draw a card. And I mean, maybe they have the O-Ring thing again, Sheltered by Ghosts, but we do have like Floodmaw to get rid of it. We also have Sink into Stupor. And so here what I'm going to do, because my life total really is not under any threat, I'm just going to pass, and then I'm going to bounce the Sheltered by Ghosts on end step. And they have a second Rest in Peace. Yeah. Note, the Sheltered by Ghosts itself does not have Ward. I do bounce with the Sink into Stupor in case I end up wanting to get rid of these Rest in Pieces with Floodmaw. So Floodmaw is cheaper on the combo turn, so I keep it for that reason. Having the strings in hand with the Ring is nice. We do get to draw a card and pick up another Sink, so we can potentially double bounce and then unlock our graveyard before using this Hidden Strings, which would definitely be a nice option. Okay. Now there is the argument to be made that I could have Floodmawed and then also Monamoed the Ring, which would just be more cards overall. That might have been better in hindsight. There's definitely trade-offs either way though, because like committing to that plan, it makes it less likely that you're going to be bouncing these Rest in Pieces at some point during this turn, but it's definitely reasonable. Draw a couple more cards. We've got Hidden Strings. Manamo, we pick up another Hidden Strings. So we are feeding some of this stuff into the Rest in Pieces. We did lose 2 Hidden Strings, but I do go for the double bounce, figuring that, you know, I just have enough resources that I can pretty reliably use my Breach now. Breach, Strings. Opponent is tapped out. And we're going for, you know, a bunch of untapping. We have Breach. It's just an abundance of riches at this point. Taking 1,000,000 mana, Wish, something I'll do when I'm in like a commanding position. You want to make sure you get an extra Wish in so that you just have access to Pact of Negation out of your board, just in case. Like if there's no reason where you're choked on mana, you should just take the time to do it. Obviously it needs to be weighted with like potentially showing cards, like let's say you lost game 1 but then won game 2. You don't want to show them maybe like a specific sideboard card if you can help it, but for the most part, just make sure you have that pact accessible via Wish, just in case. Kind of covers a lot of different bases. I mean, post board they could certainly have something like Endurance. I mean, I know our yard is empty our yard is not empty right now. We could probably play around Endurance even without the pact, but yeah, no harm in having. I mean, I guess maybe they could have like Endurance plus Solitude, you know, who knows. And again, we're making some more mana. We're in the same spot where we have 2 cards left in the library, but I do just have the ability to respond with a Consider in case there's any sort of removal on the Oracle, so I'm not concerned about leaving those 2 cards there. And we are 4-0, 8-0, really on a bit of a tear so far. It's nice. This deck, the opponent had the double Rest in Peace, and it just didn't really matter because we had the ring, right? So it's really cool that this deck has sort of 2 different plans that attack from different axes. So the ring attacks by drawing a million cards, Breach attacks via the graveyard, and if they have graveyard hate, you can potentially blanket by just drawing ring. If they have like draw hate, like Bowmasters or something, you can potentially just blanket by drawing the graveyard half. So I do like how it almost feels like your opponent's hate, if it's like graveyard or draw hate, it only has like a 50% chance of working, basically. Honestly, maybe even a little bit less, because you can sort of selectively tune your plan to the thing that they don't have the hate for. Now, I mean, yes, the generic storm hate hits you, damping sphere or whatever, but blanking chunks of hate just by being able to play around it as a combo deck is really, really nice, and not something to be underestimated. All right, so round number 5. I mean, I already told you guys this was a 5-0, but we're just kind of cruising through these matches, making it look easy. All right, next round. So our opponent is a Gigantha deck again. We pick up a hand that I think is a little bit iffy. We have no selection and no way to put a Lotus into play. So we do mull it, but then we have a hand with only Lotus, so this is going to have to be a mull to 5. Opponent has also mulled to 6. This hand is good. We have map plus 2 lands, which is equivalently a Lotus. We have Consign that isn't going to be so good here. That's going to be one of the cards I send back, because we don't have the natural Lotus in hand. And then we send back the Twiddle over the Vizier. Kind of an interesting choice because usually the Twiddles are better, but because I have Deserted Temple, I mean, my plan through the first 3 turns is land map, land end step fetch with map, and then Lotus Temple untap to 3 mana, cycle Vizier to 4 mana, play the ring. And that means that this Vizier represents an extra draw that the Twiddle doesn't, for playing this ring. So we've got this planned out till turn 3, and we have a specific use in mind for this Vizier. And in the situation where we're going to use this Vizier is more powerful than a Twiddle because it is just an extra draw, and I get to play the ring anyway. So that's why we're keeping it over the Twiddle. And from this hand, I mean, every bit of gas will be helpful. Opponent leads on a Godless Shrine and a Guide of Souls, so looking like Mardu Energy, but thankfully they did not Thoughtseize us. We pick up a land, and we've got Expedition Map. A little bit worried about this because of Static Prison. Yes, they do have Static Prison, taking out our map, and with it goes our ability to find a Lotus. Now, fortunately, we're not under that much pressure yet, but it's still a little bit concerning. We do pick up a Consign, but I'm going to probably be going for the Surveil here. Something I could potentially do is if they are going to gain an energy, and like let's say they go down to 0 energy and then they play something that's going to gain them an energy, I can potentially consign the energy trigger to like try and get my Expedition Map back, but that's a bit of a rough spot to be in. Opponent is passing, suggesting maybe a Bowmasters here, because what else makes Mardu Energy pass with 3 mana up? I mean, maybe they have like removal, like a Bolt or something, Galvanic Discharge or whatever, but we'll Surveil. We hit a Dream's Grip, which we do not need because we need a Lotus Field. Really anything other than Lotus Field needs to be sent away. And hey, look at that. Our deck loves us. We just draw the Lotus Field off the top. Now I do play the Minamo here. What was my thought process here? I think my thought process was if they have the Bowmasters, I probably want to win same turn with the ring, and to do that I need as much mana as possible. They do have the Bowmasters. Yeah, so if I like just play the ring, it makes it a little bit dicier the next turn, I think. So the goal is again to try and go for a same turn ring. Also makes them pay for this Static Prison. Opponent hits Amped Raptor into Amped Raptor, which is pretty good for us because not a lot of that matters. We are going to take a bit of a hit here, though. Go to 11. Pick up Wish, which is decent. Potentially this lets us like draw some cards with a ring and then try to like backdoor into a Wish plan. So we're untapping, consigning the field. Wait, why did I? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, so I'm just keeping all of the lands in play. We pick up a Twiddle, take a hit from Bowmasters. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's not bad. So we untap again. Now here we get to ring, and then Minamo and ring again, all while having the ring protection. So basically the idea is we have 1,000,000 mana, and we can probably do some sort of Wish Breach line. Which, yeah, I mean, makes sense. We have the ring protection for this turn. They tick down the Static Prison. Goblin Bombardment. This is a little bit awkward because it means I can't use the ring really at all because I'll take 3 damage from the Bowmasters and then be dead to the Goblin Bombardment sacrifices. So my plan was I'd get 1 more draw out of the ring, have more cards, but I mean, we did draw the Breach naturally, which means that we're just in an okay spot. So we have Breach. We have Twiddle, we have Wish, we have Scour, and they have 2 cards in hand and no real ability to interact. So that is going to be the game. Once we find a strings, we get to start doing the strings Temple Field loop, which is slightly more mana efficient and therefore more card efficient than the single mana untapper Tome Scour loop. So more Tome Scours happening. More Tome Scours happening. Worked our way down to 4 cards. Untap more, make some more mana. Go for a Wish. A little bit more mana. You'll note that we go for the Tome Scour, get the remaining chunk of cards. Another Wish, because now we have Pact plus Oracle up, and then play the Oracle with the Pact backup. So yeah, I mean, another thing worth noting there, we do need to zero our library because the Bombardment could kill the Oracle. And I don't really want to play the Consider if I can help it, because I had 4 cards left, so I'd have to like double Consider, which would kill me to the Bombardment plus Bowmaster pings. So, I mean, it is only 2 from directly drawing the card, but what they can do is they can Bombardment sack the army and then make a new army and then sack the army again. So we would be dead if we tried to like double Consider or something. All right, but we are up a game in the final round against Mardu Energy. Okay, so we have a hand here that is just a turn 3 Lotus. We don't really have anything to do with it. We just have this Consider to try and find a little bit of business. This hand is a little bit dicey. We do need to draw into some business, but I am not going to turn down a turn 3 Lotus, right? So Godless Shrine into Guide of Souls. Again, fortunate it was not a Thoughtseize. We do play Map. And we also dodge the Static Prison, which is good. And Static Prison isn't even really very good against us. And so they're in a little bit of a bind. Do they board out Static Prison? I think probably not. It does hit Map. And I mean, sometimes it'll hit a ring in a relevant situation, but it's really not the best the majority of the time. So they've got an Ocelot Pride on 2, maybe holding up removal. Play the Temple. Sink into Stupor was not the best draw. Neither was, I think, another land was our other draw. They're going to hit us for a bit more damage. Play Bombardment. We draw a field. Bombardment is a problem. We don't have anything yet. We just have a bounce. But I did untap with the Temple because now we can hold up Sync at least. They fetch. They have an Amped Raptor. They have a Nile Spellbomb, which was very rough for them to hit. Now they are attacking us for how much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could bounce the Bombardment. I could bounce the Nile. If I take the 6, and then I'm potentially imminently dead to this Bombardment. So I do bounce the cat to just try and save the most life, figuring we'll try and go for a ring potentially, and I could also like pass and then Otawara the Nile. Go to 13. Make some more cats. We draw something kind of useless. Hit a Meticulous Archive in order to surveil, because now the situation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to take 9. We're going to be dead. So actually, I think bouncing the Sync or bouncing the cat was definitely a mistake. I probably should have bounced the Nile Spellbomb, because the Bombardment wasn't threatening me for lethal there either. And this way, if I bounce the Nile and I work my way towards a breach line, potentially I can win, maybe. Opponent has a Bowmasters. They hit us for 11. We bin a Consider. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're in very dicey shape, but we drew another land, and that's just not going to do it. Or another Twiddle, and that's just not going to do it. We just don't have any business. So we scoop it up. It is not a 5-0, 10-0, but you know, a good league regardless. And I'm fortunately not bouncing the Nile didn't cost us. Had I drawn like, well, Breach would have not been great there either though, because if I guess I'd have this Consider. I'd get to like ramp up, Breach, Consider, and then Consider again out of the yard and maybe find something. Okay, note that they do have Ghost Vacuum, which is a cool card. Love that card. I'll be playing that in the Grishel brand that I'm probably going to be playing again soon. Maybe next video, question mark? All right, last round, let's take a look at it. So we have here a hand that is kind of interesting. We have one land map, double untapper, but I do send it back because like the double Flood Maw is not that useful. The Consider I can't really use to find a second land without setting me back a turn. I think this hand is just a lot better. We have some business. We naturally have a Lotus Field, and I put away one of the cantrips. No, what did I put away? I think it was a cantrip. Maybe it was a Vizier or a Consider. But the idea being that I'd like to consign the field if I can, and then I just have a million mana. I'm preordaining here because I don't want the discard to happen. Bottom both, and then I draw Wish, which is also very good. I didn't want to take a Twiddle without any other business, because Breach is not enough business on its own. You also need like something to do. In particular, you need Wish, or I guess you need Ring potentially. Opponent has Sacred Foundry, Nile Spellbomb. Annoying with our Breach plan. We're going to go for a Consider, or a Consign, I mean, it's not worth like holding up Consign there and not playing the Preordain, I think, because then like they just thought seize your Preordain and then you're sad. They really only play like probably 1 or 2 Nile for the most part, so what are the chances they have it? Not very high. Goblin Bombardment, totally fine when they have no creatures in play. We pick up another Consign right on time. Cycle this Vizier to draw. I could have thought about hard casting the Vizier there. This is a situation where having Wish would be pretty cool because we get to, and having like an Ave would be pretty cool because we potentially get to go for like a big Ave, but it turns out we actually have some interesting options here. So I can play Breach and, make a little bit of mana, and then I can play Breach. And what this does is it puts pressure on them to use the Spellbomb immediately. If they don't use the Spellbomb immediately, I get to Dream's Grip, tap the Spellbomb. So I play the Breach. And I get to entwine this Dream's Grip. Oh wait, no, I didn't. I just untapped. Okay, so yeah, I just untap here. If they spellbomb me in response, now I have a Dream's Grip in my yard. I can wish for a Tome Scour, and then I'll have 3 mana with Tome Scour, so I can scour, and then start looping the Dream's Grip. So if they spellbomb me here, they lose. But once I have this Dream's Grip in the yard, now I get to use the Dream's Grip with Breach. And now I get to entwine the grip and tap the spellbomb. And there's nothing they can even kill in our yard. So they tap the spellbomb, and now we go for a wish, Tome Scour, and we just have the typical Tome Scour kill. So that was a cool situation where, again, hate becomes not that good against us because we have these tap and untap effects, which is definitely an advantage over Ruby Storm. I'm not saying this deck is necessarily better than Ruby Storm or anything like that, but I do think it has more play against hate in general, which I do like. And I mean, I'm not trash talking Ruby Storm. I like Ruby Storm. I won an RCQ a couple, last week or whatever with Ruby Storm. It's probably still my front runner for the RC is far enough away that things will change, but Twiddle is, I don't know, it's been impressing me a lot lately. It feels more like a Legacy Storm deck than Ruby Storm does, in my opinion. Like, Ruby, if not to say like a single piece of graveyard shuts down Ruby either. Ruby can just not use the graveyard at all. You can win with Ral, but you interact with hate better, I think. And yeah, so we just work our way down. We play the Thassa's Oracle. And that's the 5-0, almost a 5-0, 10-0, one loss in there, but a bunch of clean matches, a bunch of quick wins. I think something that definitely helped was I feel like I mulliganed pretty aggressively, and I think it was definitely right to making sure that we just have a way to put that Lotus into play. All right, so let's take one final look back at the deck list. So this was the list. Defense Grid was actually decent against Control in the one match where I brought it in. On paper, I still don't like Defense Grid that much, but I definitely see the merit against Frog, where like they tap out for a Frog and then you tap out for a Defense Grid. So it makes it a little bit harder for them to like tap for a Frog. The rest of this, I just like the whole list. I mean, I like Meticulous Archive. Having the Surveil access is just nice. Lockdown didn't come up, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe I would still put an Ave in the sideboard with this, just as a wish target. The Grape Shot, I think, is maybe not as needed right now with the amount, with like fewer surgicals running around. What was that was in there from, I think last time I played this, there was more surgicals floating around, so something I was more worried about. Not sure I'm actually going to leave it like this, but I feel like I do like the idea of an Ave in the board. I think 3 Flood Maws was enough with the Sinks and the Otawara, and potentially even like the Consigns, but I could see a world where you want to go up to 4. I think the 1 Pact in the board is still very much worth it. Probably the most shaveable thing, I think, is maybe one of the Defense Grids if you want like another Flood Maw or maybe another Silence or Dranith or whatever. All right, so that was the list. Those were the games. Another 5-0 with Twiddle Storm. Again, I guess it wasn't this. Let me show you the final version of the actual list. Yeah, until next time. Next time I'll probably gonna be playing Griselbrand. Might play that Land Nauseam deck again. That one was pretty cool. If you liked this format where it was the video based on the replays, definitely let me know. The one thing I don't like about it is you can't really see the sideboard, but it is a lot quicker. So for those of you who have a little bit more limited time and you don't want to just sit and listen to me for 2 hours, I mean, first of all, you can always watch it double speed. Second of all, yeah, I mean, maybe this format works a little bit better. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, keep twiddling until next time.